Hi everyone. This program is brought to you by Grandchat with funding from the Eastern Caribbean Allegiance for Diversity and Equality Inc., ECAD, and the Commonwealth Equality Program and Kaleidoscope International Trust. I am your host, Lorna Dale Charles, and my guest speakers today are Mr. Arthur Pierre and Mr. Pearson Stroude. Now, today we are discussing showing up how men can support their partners. Now, gentlemen, welcome again. For the audience purposes, who probably just tuning into the Grandchild program for the first time, tell the audience about yourself.
Well, my name is Arthur Pierre. I've been working along with men for a number of years, looking at issues of domestic violence. I've been a teacher for a number of years, drug control officer for a number of years, and now I'm into disaster management. So that's basically about me. Like to deal with the issues of relationship and issues surrounding men. So that's what it is.
Mr. Stroude, tell us about yourself.
Train counselor. I work with everybody. The reality was that it is important for us to, if we are being seriously we feel that as a people, we have to be able to be sensitive towards the issues of each other. And so that's where I work. I work with people helping us to help people to understand each other. And especially men and girls. There's a special I had a special interest in working with them because it was important for us to understand what it is to be a man. And while I'm not the perfect example, I believe there is much that I can share with them. So that's pretty much me that.
Now, and for the purpose of our discussion, I wanted to share and focus the idea of men in the context of religion, how religion, I guess, supports men, and how our society and culture expects men to function on a whole, right? Like how they should act, how they should think, and their mannerism. So in this era, I guess my first question is, in this era, what does it mean to be a man in our society? Mr. Stroude, you can go first.
Okay, I really would like refer to the right to the most where I'm no experienced man and stuff. But I wanted to expect with on the men. And I want to stand there on that being very honest. In a lot of cases, more than that rules, when that necessarily win, in the sense that how we act, how we treat with people, how we also work with the people in our lives. A man, first of all, has to be someone who is willing to take responsibility. A man, second, in my opinion, I can do well. The man who is really supposed to be someone who is willing to stand there with his commitment and his will. And so, if he takes responsibility and if he stands there with his commitment and his will, he is someone who is supposed to be seen as one that can be reliable and one who can be relied upon. And so that is my understanding of realness in terms of that I believe the standards. Now, I believe also that from the evidence that I see, society does not necessarily expect that of men anymore. And I say this because of the very socialized habits. You cannot expect a man to be responsible if you do not first teach him or expect something when he's a child to be responsible. And unfortunately, we haven't socialized that well. Let them not feel we let them do anything of their side of them. We teach them how to be responsible because we insist that they can listening that because we expect much from them that we will treat and we don't expect much from them. Because of how we treat with them, because we have kind of expectations rather than we send them the subtle message and not much of expect. But we could be anywhere, we could do anywhere, we could do anything, we could cut that down. And so, unfortunately, that message is sent to the man that you cannot do anywhere. Now, when that message is sent and digested, it's very difficult for him comes all that to be able to stand on responsibility. It's very difficult for him to be committed to certain things. And so that is my take on society and real and honest.
Mr. Pei?
Well, I I can't add much to that, but just to agree with what Pearson said 100%. The only other thing is that one of the things that our society and our culture has not done is to have our boys and our men do the introspection. So too often we don't look within ourselves. We talk when you look at the conversation that men have, they talk about everything else and they don't talk about their emotions. They don't talk about the things that truly affect them. Okay. And they struggle with a lot of issues. Again, based on what whole society has shaped them, they struggle with a lot of issues. And sometimes you see that being manifested by the way that they try to resolve issues, by the way that they try to resolve conflicts, by the way that they train their children, by the way that they have relationship with their partners, simply because they have not been socialized to really look within and see their strengths and see their weaknesses and really and truly address some of the issues that they have. They have not learned to do that, and society have not taught them that. However, on the flip side, again, based on what Mr. Stroude said, and based on what actually is happening, our female folk, our women folk, they have learned to do that. Okay, a young lady may have a problem, and you see a group of them basically surround her, and she's able to express herself, express her feelings, and say exactly what are some of the things that is might be disturbing her, and she gets that collective help. With a man, hello, I'm not supposed to go to anybody. I'm supposed to be able to solve my problem for myself, and that sometimes is a false sense of manhood, being able that you figure that you should be able to do it on your own. Okay, and there's help out there for a number of women, as long as they're willing to really and truly open up and share some of the things that disturb them.
Absolutely. And I suppose we would get into a deeper discussion on that later on. However, I wanted to touch on the topic, because what I'm hearing is mostly like heterosexuals, but there's a group of people of different orientation, which is the LGBTQ, right? How does our society, in terms of, again, in the context of religion, in the context of our culture and our socialization, what does it mean to be, let's say, someone of a different sexual orientation, not of the heterosexual category? If you fall into the LGBTQ committee, how do you explain that from a male perspective, from your experiences? And if we're talking about Grenada in particular, how does society view these people?
I want to answer the question by saying, listen, wellness is wellness, eh? I would have to be very careful that that's in a situation, for example, where we have two roles in a relationship. We have a situation where we have two on. If you do have a situation where we have two women who are socializing, that are seeing there and men socialize, understand the conundrum in which we find ourselves. Because nobody necessarily would necessarily be willing to talk. And so we want us to be very careful to make sure that in those type of same-sex type of relationships, whether entities that you would have spoken to, the reality is that human beings, and I've never learned to want them in a so we have to get to the place where we recognize that when we enter a relationship, there are two individuals coming from two different places. If we have to do two roles for example, or if you have to do crucial days, or if you have to do time. So if you have to do two, you have to understand that the individual on the other side of that person, and that will set up, is not coming from the same place that you came from. So when you come to the same building with that person, simply because you came from a different world, you've been confident differently. You've been socialized in a different way. The expectations that you have, you grew up with expecting the type of lifestyle and so we have different. And so even some community and some one people at different simple different all the way back up and you brought them up. And so one has to understand that there is an understanding when we're into relationships, into any relationship, that we are really with that understanding when I work with persons who are planning to get married, I always say we have to be very careful that the spouse in their head and the spouse in their bed is as close to each other as possible. Because many of us enter relationships and the spouse in the head and the spouse in the bed are two different people. We perceive and tell ourselves let this person run you with free. We tell ourselves what we learn from this person, that we do not take the time to first work with ourselves. And that's a really big one. We don't necessarily time to know ourselves, to know what we really want. And then, of course, if we don't take the time to know ourselves, we're not taking the time to know that person. We have to wait for the person who understands. But the spouse in the head, and the partner in the head, if we want to use that terminology instead, and the partner in the bed needs to be as close to each other as possible. Because that perception is sometimes made at the reality. And so, that's what I would say in relation to that. Right.
Mr. Fick.
I wouldn't say anything different. Certainly, there's so much truth in basically what Mr. Stroude said, that when whatever relationship that you get into, you are basically strangers, and you have to take the time to first and foremost understand yourself and understand the other individual. Too often, our relationship is based on sex, and not necessarily on trying to discover this new individual, this stranger that you want to have a relationship with. It is critical that more time is spent on the conversation, on the communication of just trying to explore and to understand the individual, so that when it comes to really and truly getting down into a serious relationship, you have a clearer perception of that person. You understand the boundaries and the parameters in which you can function and operate, and you are able to freely express yourself and to be vulnerable in front of the individual, because you have an understanding of who that person is and what that person can or cannot accept. All right, and I think that is where relationship basically and truly would thrive from, if we can have that sort of open exploration and discussion and communication. And of course, all of those things lead to better and greater intimacy.
But back to me, so.
Yeah, I want to, as you was on that topic, let us discuss then the role of a man in a relationship. What does that look like? Because you talk about exploration and getting to know your partner. So what does a role of a man in a relationship looks like?
Well, yes. The thing is, when it comes to, as far as I'm concerned, all right, and this might be just my opinion, but when it comes to relationship, the role that any partner plays must be as an individual. I come as an individual and you're there as an individual, and we are two individuals that are trying to work a relationship out. Okay? We come with different skill sets, we come with different backgrounds, and what we are trying to do is to see if we could mesh the skill sets and the backgrounds and all the things that we have and all the baggage that we have, to see how we could mesh that together to develop something that is beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, I don't subscribe to roles. Oh, this is my role. I think what culture has done is put people in little blocks and saying, hello, that is your role. That's your function. And stick within that lane, and with the hope that the relationship survives. Okay? You're in a relationship, you're living with somebody, you're married to somebody, and really and truly, if I decide to wash wares or wash clothes or whatever, that is just part of the function of what I have to accomplish for the relationship that I'm in. Okay? We tend to put roles in front of the relationship, and whenever we do that, we have problems. Now, I also subscribe to the fact that there are times when some persons within the relationship, when one or the other, may have to take a leadership role based on their knowledge and their experience in a particular thing. For example, if one partner cannot necessarily handle finances, and this person is versed in finances and understands finances, and so when it comes to making a decision about the purchase of something or investment, that person might have to take the leadership role, and the other partner must now have learned to trust and rely on that person to be able to bring the relationship forward.
And I'm coming to that point.
I know I sound like I'm itching to say something. I want to boost my answer based on some of the research that I have that exist. And one of the aspects of I want to pay attention to, because it has a lot to do with the issue we have with and that is the absence of farmers. And I'm going to slow this to get to the point. When you look at the research that is them in terms of whether it's prison population, most of the issues that we see in our society, one of the growing issues, especially from the Caribbean context, is the absence of the father. The absence of that real figure, let's put it that way. It speaks to a few things, but the one that I like to highlight is the concept of security. Especially when there's children within a relationship, when there's the give a sense of security, especially to the children. And the research is clear. I'm not even going to go into all of that. And so I believe that there are certain fundamental rules I believe that are really with taking care of something that's security and so, and nurturing, of course, if we have that type of relationship where the sexual relationship will nurturing will tend to be on the female side. Well, that being said, you have to recognize that people will everything. And I go back to the reality and what Mr. Pierre said and what I'm going to commend some of the well said. I have to know where I am gifted. I have to know the areas in which I am good or not good. The idea is supposed to be necessarily kind of partnership with partners. Well, you know why we say that? Partnership. It has to do with I am making my contribution of my strength will with a person looking for the best strength will to put a whole together. And I think, I felt I understand that is the principle. And so I work with that. I need to know and take the time to know well enough to know that I bring to this. And so it's very important that I do not see them. I said that before telling my willingness and oneness we can do and let's do it better in this area. And so I may have to spend that until guidance on that. And so it is very important that we understand where we are gifted, where what we're good at. And so when we come into the partnership, listen, my awareness at there. And that's it. You think that you got an another feeling somewhere pretty feeling than that. But that's what I think. Take it, wherever. We're not living everywhere partners, and we're part because we should have better of it. And of course the real attitude and I would have was really good. And so it's very important that's what I would feel in terms of response to rules. And we have to be very careful and that the fine rules that I think in each individual relationship, that partnership will have different rules that people will play at different times. And sometimes, again, times, for example, based on the relationship and based on where the relationship is, one individual will play a particular role in a relationship and play a different role later. That's happened because people have that dynamic and choose and experiences and all those kind of things. So, that we're careful that we don't find a group into handling it is. But at the same time, I believe so there are several fundamental things. I wouldn't call it rural, I thought it was responsible semantics that there has a move to that security to I believe that actual sexual relationship nurturing and so would the female. That's my take.
Sometimes in our society we claim that we're a religious society. And I guess to answer the question, in terms of the role of a man. Now, the Bible would say, I don't quote me here because I'm not going to do this verbatim, but the male is the head of the home, right? With the different types of relationships, whether it's heterosexual, whether it's bisexual, whatever category, how then do we place that in the context of modern times? Because if we use it a religious perspective, how we are socialized, or the culture, how do we make that with the different groups or partnerships in terms of relationships, intimate relationships? How do we make that distinction in our society, so to speak? Is there a distinction, or it doesn't matter, or we leave those groups to, I suppose, work on their tweaks? Like Mr. Pierce said, you get to know your partner. You're saying, Mr. Stroude, that know your role, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and let that person or these groups of people in the relationship decide who's better at what. But if you take in a religious perspective, there's a kind of flip side to that, no?
And there are two bundles. There's religion and there's the Bible. And those two things are sometimes very the same thing each other, okay? And so if we follow religion, we have, in my opinion, we have space for rule and honest. The rule and Bible, then we are on different, looking more purely biblical, and their own Protestants call it sola scriptura. The Bible and the Bible only. If we are following that particular orientation and that's your belief system, then the Bible is very clear and not to recognize as a relationship or what is considered that. So we have to be very careful that we have to be very careful when we're doing this. And so I would, this is what's doing religion with, but if you're dealing with the Bible, when I look at this, I gotta make sure that I want to make sure we're good. I if you go with the Bible, then the Bible doesn't. The only Bible recognizes is that we're human. Alright, so I don't know. So if that's religion, which is in my opinion, I really understand. So when you can talk about proof, but if you can purely and look at this Bible, then we'll be able to answer that I really prefer and approve that this is the Bible. I was so this. When we read the Bible is very clear about the headship of the home. What you have to be very careful about is what does that headship mean? That is where the issue ends. And I let it not the part of the headship. That headship is when I interpret as the best. I've even the wrong interpretation of everything. That the Bible doesn't have that much that the Bible is speaking about. The Bible is speaking about the spiritual realm on the heaven. That is what primarily that said when you speak with heaven, the Bible is clearly speaking about the man being responsible for making sure that his family is spiritual led and making sure that his family will walk to the throne of God and those kind of things like that. So it is a very fundamental thing where when the Bible is speaking, when the Bible is speaking when it comes to that headship, there's a security element, the security purposes and welfare. Those kind of things like that, and those are the words that the Bible speaks to. We see every example of when we should rely, we'll see where we're that after we had to make sure that we're there's a deal about the world. The headship is spiritual leadership, is making sure that we're taking care of our family, transcendent the responsibilities of being the right to nurture. The Bible gives us 5 for 3 that a man who does not take care of our family is less than an infidel. What is that? Really strong statement. This is an infidel. That's so we understand where the Bible cuts them to we're having the responsibility to take care of. That's where I would value it. And unless we follow the prayer when we're exploring them, so I'm certainly exploring the real West.
Religion is not something that I try to dabble in too much. I try to stay away a little bit from religion because it is pretty confusing sometimes. You need different beliefs, right? But I want to also talk on the issues of the Bible, where the issue of leadership within the scope of family and relationship, as the Bible defines, has to do with servant leadership.
Yes.
Where the man becomes a servant to his family. The Bible says that he should be willing to lay down his life for his family. So it means that he is so protective, so keenly interested in the relationship of family that he is willing to stand in the gap to protect his family at all costs. He's willing to serve. All right. And the Bible did give an example of how Christ served the church, his people. That he was willing to lay down his life. So too often, we skew all of that. Our religion and society and culture take some snapshots of that and they skew it into believing that, look, because the Bible says the man should be the head of the household, they figure that whatever he says goes. Yeah? And that's not what the Bible is saying. Okay? It is a partnership, so there must be discussion in terms of where we want to go as it relates to the relationship that we have. I always like to tell people that in a relationship, it is like somebody driving a car. Two persons cannot drive the car. All right? But one person might be there behind the wheel operating all the things to move that vehicle forward. And then you have another person who we refer to as a co-pilot. Okay? Now, at some point, that co-pilot may have a license and is able to drive as well. Okay? Just as we say, sometimes relationship change as we go along. It's a dynamic process. So there are times when the co-pilot may have to take the lead on some things. The thing is, about relationship generally, it is what these two persons, these partners agree on in terms of how the relationship should function and should progress, so that we both are equally satisfied and amicably satisfied with just being able to resolve the issues of life and the challenges of life. It has to be an agreement between the two partners, and not necessarily somebody lording authority or power, wielding things over another person and figuring that is what a definitive head is all about.
Absolutely. So then it takes me to the next thing in terms of feelings and emotions. Oftentimes, particularly in urban societies, and I see it a lot in Grenada, and we say very early to our boys that you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to show emotions and so forth. So it is sometimes very hard for a man to express how he feels. And you guys can tell me much more clearer, right? So as a result, your partner do not understand, I guess, you as a person, like your different emotions. What makes you tick? What makes you happy? Because sometimes you're not allowed to express the sadness that you might feel or the pain that you might be going through. Right? Because you might go to work and you have a serious back pain when you're not supposed to cry out because you're soft. Right? Particularly if you're hanging out with the boys, you might be soft. Just a little back pain you have and you're making all this noise, So what are the barriers that prevent men from really truly expressing their feelings? I mean, I guess we're talking about partnership right now, so to their partners.
The thing is, if I should go first, the thing is that, again, it has a lot to do with our socialization. It has a lot to do with our culture. Boys, you fall, get up, brush that off. You're becoming a man. You're not supposed to feel that pain. You're not supposed to express how you feel. And when they become bigger, and they are things that are actually interfering with their emotions in a negative way, they are saying they have now the conflict, the internal conflict. Should I really just break down and let people know how I feel? Should I cry because this thing is hurting me so much that I prefer, instead of crying, I prefer to go to the rum shop and knock back to a couple shots of rum or something of the sort. You may have persons where relationships are torn apart and they basically just don't know, they are like a fish out of water, simply because they have not learned how to express their emotions. You have a situation where there might be a conflict within the partnership, within the relationship, and they don't know how to seriously express how they feel, so that the other partner would have a clear understanding of what they are going through. Okay, you ask them what happened, nothing. Okay, and they might just use one or two words, and sometimes these words hurt more than they actually try to heal. Okay, the other thing too, a lot of our men folk go through so much physical pain, and there is no way that they would go and visit a doctor because a man's supposed to be strong, and we suffer physically, we suffer health-wise, simply because that is the way that we are cultured. Now, if you train that child from very small, in that aspect of not expressing himself, not saying exactly how he feels, not saying how hurt he is, not being allowed to even open and speak, all right? When he becomes a man, he holds on to those values because that is the definition that he got, that this is what a man's supposed to be like. So when he comes and he gets into a relationship, especially into a relationship where, let's say a heterosexual relationship where the female is expressive, she says exactly what hurts her and all the time. If something is there and and she's dissatisfied, she's able to express herself. He considers that, look, she nagging her boy. She nagging me. Every minute she complaining about this and every minute she complaining about that. But no, it might just be the fact that she is open to discussion about how she feels. She figures that, as a man, you're supposed to be able to listen to exactly what I'm going through, how I feel, and have that understanding. No, he is not cultured like that. He was never brought up like that. So he shuts her down as soon as she begins to open her mouth and say anything. Simply because of the way that is run. And that again is one of the issues of conflict within some of the relationships.
And that unfortunately society actually expects the man to not be expressive. Or should I say with words? We're men, this is the look at our That's me. But to be able to articulate their feelings, that's not necessarily how we are expected to return to themselves or reconsider whatever the case might be, when we are able to articulate and we are able to see how you feel, we will look at you in the and so unfortunately society has that expectation of the male to be one who's hard and thinking and feeling so that's one thing there. Unfortunately, that is sometimes the expectation of the society. And so, when time for just film and just go along with the expectation. Yeah.
Right. So how then does you men, get the space or the room? What would you recommend to get a space or that room so you can voice your feelings, you can express your emotions?
I think men need space to move the women. Then we can't have a scene, Minister Pierre and Mr. It takes a man to rule the man. I know people are offended by that. But I believe in it. I think men a space where they can express themselves and in the presence of women in a safe place. And I'm trying to win that place, my opinion. Because to me, all that happens to them shadows with very respectful, don't really necessarily things. That's what it's supposed to be. So we have to be very careful to make sure that our environment is established where men can remember to be free, interact with each other, to just need themselves with each other, and to be able to relate with each other, to get guidance. But unfortunately, we live as a society, because all our ancient societies had that. The back at the African society had that was something that was established. where we feel like community, the men will come together and we will talk about the things, and the boys, the younger boys, will be able to be there and to listen and to reflect. That is how some of the issues and the lessons were passed on. Were them. And so we heard that we were expected of you because we heard the burn that men speak. And you didn't have that from within our societies. That has been taken away. We had a picture with the ritual examples. We don't really, speak to each other that much. So I believe an environment in which men can speak to each other through modern examples, and be able to express themselves will be what I will consider to be one of the methodologies which we can approach giving them an opportunity to be able to express themselves.
I want to just piggyback on something that Mr. Stroude said. Going back to the African society, generations congregated together, and that is a powerful thing. Eh? Generations congregated together. So you had the great-grandfather, you had the grandfather, you had the father, you had the son. And there is a sharing of experiences across generations. So they understood some of the fundamental principles that guided their ancestors. If I want to put it like that, all right, and those principles were passed down simply through conversation, and women were not involved. Right, women were not involved. This was when the young man had to, get the first test in life. The generation of men supported him. He was there. Exactly. He was there. His father, his grandfather was there to give him the support. No, we do not see that happening in our societies. In fact, what we do see, you go to a pre-primary school, first time as a boy, you find a female teacher. You go to a primary school, you find a female teacher. You go to a secondary school, and perchance you may have a male teacher there, but it is predominantly female. You go to a tertiary institution, and you meet a lot of female teachers. When it comes to having social groups and everything, so a lot of them are led by females. Okay? And I firmly subscribe to the issues that it takes a man to raise a boy. A man to raise a man. I firmly subscribe to that, because we go through experiences, and I'm able to share some of the mistakes that I would have made as a young man, even though, you had father and all of that, but there are some things that you would go through that you should be able to pass on to your son so that he could pass on to his son, about what being a man is all about. So again, we need that space. Too often, again, I do agree with Mr. Stroude when he said the bar is not the best place, because we talk about sports, we talk about women, we talk about cars, we talk about politics, but we don't speak about ourselves.
But some may argue that there's a flip side to that. Well, one can argue that male does have that space because they hang out with their male partners. Isn't that the same or similar? If they're going through, they may not vent to their partner at home, but they may go vent to, I guess, if it's a group, maybe football after football, they might express, or maybe hanging out on the block. Isn't that the same? And I know you're talking about the traditional, and traditional societies that was passed down to one generation to the next, but our society has changed drastically that we don't really see extended families. And as you rightfully mentioned, Mr. Pierre, there isn't much male role models around, because you say you go to the schools, and even if you go to a PTA meeting, for example, the bulk of the people there are females, right? So I hear what you're saying, but is there a distinction? For example, if you go and hang out with the boys on the block, if you want to express something, because you might be going through, that might be a circle, or
Right.
are
Now,
you saying that since there's a break as well in the dynamics of the family, because you're seeing different types of families, right? There's a single parent, there's a nuclear parent, and in the Caribbean context, they're mostly single parents, and it goes
Right.
both ways. There's male single parents and there's female single parents, but we mostly see the female aspect of it.
Right.
So isn't that, I guess, going back to the point, male probably have that, I guess, their football group or their soccer group or the church group. Isn't that the same
Right.
thing where you can probably that safe space? Can you not find that safe space there as
Right.
well?
Now,
That's what
this
I'm asking. Or is it
the
is it different?
the avenues, if I want to put it like that, might be available, right?
Right.
So they may have their little groups, they may have their little football club, and so on, so. But the truth is, the discussion on the issues that really and truly affect me, I will not bring it up at that space because I was not cultured to do so.
Okay.
I was not socialized.
Agenda. That's not the agenda.
That's not the agenda.
Agenda, that's not the agenda. The agenda is not to discuss self and discuss issues that are that. Or definitely self-development. That's when it's not the agenda. That's not the agenda that was.
Let me just draw into the experiences dealing with man-to-man at the legal aid and consulting. Now these guys come in because they are perpetrators of domestic violence. And when they begin to give their story, right? When they start to give their story, other men are saying, but wait, I go through the same thing. So they are able now to identify. And I have had men, broke down in tears simply because they are relaying the story and they are relaying the hurt that they experience and not understanding how to deal with the conflict that arose and might have caused them to lash out in a violent manner.
So most of the first time we actually get to do that.
That's correct. That is correct.
Because the first time in sentences we actually get a space. And when we know where that went, just as between, and we're actually able to articulate for the first time in sentences.
First time.
Quite often.
And let me tell you.
And that's why the emotions connect.
And let me also say that when those 60, first of all, they come in very angry, they don't want to participate. And when they get into it, when the 16 weeks is expended, which is spent, these guys don't know how, they don't know what to do. They're like a fish out of water because they have now found that space and found a voice within that space. And they really and truly just need that kind of camaraderie, that. So they say, even though they say, we really need to continue this, we need to be able to be able to meet again, and so a lot of times they don't do it. Just the challenges of life and so. But men crave that experience where they could actually sit down and talk and really and truly express themselves and talk about their own stories without being judged, without being ridiculed, without feeling that it's they alone that might be going through things like that.
So then what would you guys suggest would be the best avenue or the best spaces to give men to truly express or become a better version of themselves? What do they need?
The person that I just think that gender has to change. The same person who spoke there, I would anything that has to change, I should also change. I only have to be added because we don't want to take a real friend, the spirit that thinking that doesn't still add to woman to the human. But I think when it's an addition, and when it comes to those types of spaces and level and gender inside those spaces, there's an added aspect that gives people the opportunity to. What is it that not very fully established, right? Because we have to be very careful and a small society, we are so small. It was very, very easy for someone to want to trust to them. But unless you get into those kind of contracting things that was the previous step in the where we're having this step that society circling and so where we'll contract and we'll sign off on confidential agreements and things like that. When we had a trip, we have a same cyber, at a school where. And so in other cases, people will have to feel that freedom to work to express. And so we have to create environments where with a risk, with them type of spaces and so, but it has to be done in a context where people are welcome given the opportunity to open, that at the same time I'm allowed to be safe, the feeling that something safety, and then I'm sure that it's not something that's going to be similar as my tomorrow. And unfortunately, that happens with a small of that when we tend to do that at times.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's also that common notion, and I think Mr. Pierre alluded to it earlier, the common notion that men don't crave affection or connection or closeness or emotional intimacy as women do. Is that a fair assumption? And if so, how can we communicate, or how can men communicate their needs for such with their partners?
Well, I saw that question, and it's a very difficult question to answer. Men are very good at communicating the need for sex. In fact, a lot of men would tell you, or for a lot of men, sex to them is intimacy.
Good.
And you might find a man being able to open up after sex, before a sexual encounter. He might let his guard down and begin to express himself and express his emotions. Now, the woman, on the other hand, she may not necessarily be interested in the sexual act. All right, she wants to talk and to cuddle and all of that because that is how she is wired. Again, there must be a meeting of those two partners in terms of how they would work that out. However, men do need intimacy. They do need to be able to express themselves. In fact, you would hear there are some men who would say, when they are talking within the space that I defined earlier, that she does not understand me, or she does not love me, or she does not listen to me, or I don't get an opportunity to express how I feel because, she would talk all the time. Again, men express their feelings in a different way. All right? And it would take an understanding partner to create the atmosphere so that he can express himself. And it may not be in the way that she accustomed hearing, but he will need that space and that time and that patience sometimes and that understanding so that he can get what he needs to get out. Be it that it may take quite a while and it may take some very rough language in terms of just him trying to express himself. We have to begin to train our boys, all right? Train our young men. Teach them how to really and truly express how they feel. As too often, their vocabulary are not expansive enough to really express some of the intricacies of their feelings. All right? So they may have a few words that they will use. And sometimes when we use those few words, it comes across so rough that it might be abrasive to the other person. And that other person not being able to understand, to read between the lines exactly what the pain that man might be going through and how he expresses himself may even create more conflict and more pain for the other individual.
The context in which that I'm really that because as human beings, that our partners are able to express and to move themselves within a context where the other individual is loving the other person instead of themselves. Let me explain what I mean. Too often we expect from the other person what we want. And so what we want and what satisfies us is what we expect from that person. So we just want the other person to do that best. And so that is where, unfortunately, whenever the issues come. And so if we want to talk about partners have to understand that you have to share loving the other person or not try to love yourself. And so that remember, not trying to find yourself in way. And so working very carefully to give that person the opportunity to move themselves. And the only time that a person is can be able to allow one other person to do themselves if we are satisfied with them. If we are comfortable as you, we don't have an issue with another person themselves. Because when we have those type of insecurities, is when we are not comfortable with self, is when we have a hard time another person to just be who they are. If you can allow people the opportunity to be themselves, if you can allow people and try to learn that person, bring them in, and of course the converse with that person gives us that, then we pretty much have the problem solved. But too often we want to leave that person that will stay. And that's where the trouble comes. So if we are getting, if we can establish that within the relationship, I think we will be better people's relationship, whether we are the rather people that we have to move to get to the place where we are with that person and not trying to put us on the if we can get that done, I think we're in a very good place.
Well, absolutely. And I'm smiling here because I was having a discussion with my partner some time ago. And there's 5 love language. I just want to go through that. I'm pulling it up right now. Those 5 love language from a male perspective, right? And for him, it's his love language is words of affirmation. His love language is physical touch. His love language is quality time. So it's like you say, for some men, sex is intimacy. His is just quality time. We just need to be in the same space. I am reading, working, doing whatever, and then he just appreciate that. And there's 2 others, which is gifts. He's not that type, so they would tend to buy gifts for men, and that's not necessarily what you guys really want, right? So, and there's acts of service, that is performing actions that make your father feel loved and appreciated. So I suppose if you know he likes ordering, then you probably would cook a nice order or cook a nice meal. I think those are the kind of things that some men like. So the physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, and acts of service. Does that fit into any of your love language? Because you have to communicate that to your partner. Because as Mr. Stroude said, you probably projected what you want from your partner, and that's not necessarily what they want. Yeah? So I suppose communication is key in terms of learning your partner's love language. You have to express, you have to be able to articulate what he or she or they need, and not necessarily what you think is best for them, because what you think is best for them is not necessarily that case. That's what I'm hearing you were saying. I mean, throughout this conversation, and have open and honest discussions with your partner. Allow him or her or they, he, she, or they to be who they want to be or who they are. Yeah? Right?
So I'm articulating that. I think that's what going down what I was
Exactly. Exactly. One of the things that I really want to stress on is that persons in relationship must take the time off from everything that life throws at them to spend time in dealing with each other. Let me tell you, our society has become quite busy. We have amenities that should be able to reduce in the amount of time that we spend doing things. While that happens, we sometimes put other things in, so we have a very packed schedule, and too often we neglect our partners. All right, we come home and we work. We go to work and we work. On weekends, when we think we should have some time to rest and relax, we work. All right, or we get involved in something that takes away that intimate quality time from our partners. Okay, and then you realize that there is some changes taking place, and the partners are none the wiser of the changes. And then you want to know, well, where your relationship went, because it has just broken down to a point where you all cannot really communicate anymore. So you become almost two strangers again. All right. Relationship is something that you just have to constantly work on. It is something like a plant. You plant it and nurture it and water it, and Give it all the nutrients for it to grow and flourish and bloom and bear fruit.
Absolutely.
Okay? Too often we just kind of neglect that and we just concentrate on our careers, we concentrate on making money, we concentrate on so many different things and not necessarily on each other. And when we come to each other, we need to talk about our relationship. Talk about the things that affect us, that we might be very elated and happy about expectations going forward, about goals and aspirations going forward, about problems that you may have at your workplace or you're in the field of play and so. We need to really and truly bare ourselves, become naked in front of the other person. And I'm not saying that literally, but figuratively, we need to bare ourselves and really and truly get to a clear understanding of each other. Because let me tell you, as we grow, we have to be able to expose ourselves so that the other person would understand the growth process that is actually.
Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with it, and we can do growth making. Sorry.
You're too literal.
Okay, now. So as we wrap up our discussion, what tools can we give to our partners? I mean, from our toolbox, so that they can show up, so that you can grow, we can have better, open, honest relationships. So, what are some of the things we can give to our partners?
With honesty on openness. That really true. I would go along to that was true. I remember, and I think will matter. They matter.
Honesty, openness, empathy, right? Tolerance, okay? And like an old couple once told me, forgiveness. Forgiveness. Because as long as you're in a relationship with somebody that is a stranger, they will do things that will get you upset and will create conflict. But you have to be able to forgive, and put yourself in that person's shoe, so that you have a better understanding of what that person might have been going through to make the decision that they made that might have caused you pain. So forgiveness certainly is one of those things. And I talk about a couple that had 50 years or 50-something years of marriage.
Right. I want to add one more thing to that.
Mr. Stroude
says that I mean one more, and that it is good to do the work, the self-work. We're still there. Too many times we enter relationships where we are so broken and we expect the other person to fix us, or let's see how we can do the fixing of ourselves so that we don't put the load on that on the other person, so that when they do want to fix us as much as possible, and let's try and see if we can fix self, and that's when we can. Well, we're not perfect. When I say perfect, we're not issues, remember anyone. I'm not trying to say that everything will be perfect, but there are some things that we have to address in our lives. Some of the toxic stuff from our past, and so that we should have much as possible fully put that in some level. And so I think that's really one. There's another thing I would add. Together with, of course, what Mr. Pearson.
I would add time. And what I mean by this is that give your partner time alone, time to hang out with his friends, time to just do what he or she wants to do. You don't have to be with them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They need time to think. They need time to reflect. You need time to do that introspection. And oftentimes you can't do it with people around you. So give them time. Give them time to explore, time to travel by themselves, and I just learn about themselves. That's how you would learn about yourself. That's how you would heal from some of your pain or trauma. By doing the things and trying to find yourself in the process. And having done that, because you can't talk from an empty cup. Yeah? So if you heal that trauma, then all you have to give is that love and affection that you probably expect your partner to. But if he or she is dealing with something from in their past and you don't give them that time or that space to breathe, then it can become sometimes problematic. So I would add time to that. Give them time alone. Time, I mean, and not necessarily time to go and hang out with their friends or so on. They need that time too, but time alone, if they crave that time alone, it is important. And it has nothing to do with them not loving you, nothing to do with them not caring or not wanting to be around you, but just so they can find themselves to be a better person for you in that partnership, as you guys rightly said. It is a partnership because it takes two to tango. Yeah? Thank you so much, gentlemen, for this program. I don't know if you want to add anything else, but I will give you some any wrap up comments.
Well, I think we went through quite a lot. Well, we as relationships now, again, the issue of trust and honesty becomes something that we really need to work on in a lot of the relationships that we see happening. Right? Again, self-focus, do the introspection, try to become a better person, and get somebody who is willing to, they have the patience to, so that you can express yourself and create that space within the relationship for free and open communication.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for tuning in. And remember, this program is brought to you by Grandpa, with funding from the Eastern Caribbean and Regions for Diversity and Equality, Inc., and the Commonwealth Equality Program, Kaleidoscope International Trust. Thank you for tuning in.